if you had to leave your home today, what will you take with you? How much space and how much time will you need? This all started with a phone conversation. I was seated in my car at the Karen Shopping Center way back when, talking to a friend of mine. "Why are you crying?" I asked her. "Why are you not crying?" she responded. She had just woken up to a rather volatile argument with my then husband, and one of many arguments that we endured over the course of our relationship. And this time round, I had fled the house. My friend lived in Uganda at the time and rightfully worried that I was perhaps being too dismissive and worried for my mental and emotional health. She asked me to take a couple of days off and join her in Kampala just to clear my head. She said, "Just go pack a small bag, come over to Kampala." I was to pack a small bag. I found myself packing my entire life. I couldn't believe how much stuff I had collected along the way. Clothes, shoes, handbags, jackets, documents, stuff. Stuff that I had used to curate my perfect life. And now this perfect life was coming undone. You see, before that moment, this is what success looked like to me. Finish my undergrad, graduate with honors, get into the job market, climb up the ranks, get married, start my MBA, have kids, run a bank, rule the world. And I wasn't doing too badly. I was straddling somewhere halfway that list. But now, I just felt my world was imploding. Here I was, on my hands and knees, rummaging through closets, drawers, tossing stuff into suitcases, boxes, plastic bags, anything that I could find to hold my stuff. And then it dawned on me right there, on my knees. I was tasting failure. I remember holding a pair of baby booties on one hand, and Winnie the Pooh, the stuffed toy, on the other. She had just bought a few baby stuff a year prior because we had just crossed the 12-mark week, and I knew I'd hold this pregnancy to term. I lost the pregnancy at 16 weeks, the second miscarriage in under a year. The doctors called it a missed abortion. Go figure what that means. I remember just staring at Winnie the Pooh and feeling this overwhelming feeling of loss, shame. I'd failed to hold my marriage together. I'd failed to hold a baby in my womb. In my experience at the time, there was nothing more humiliating than to contend with infertility, what the doctors called unexplained infertility. And so that afternoon, as I hauled all these boxes into my car, it was just a stark reminder of how great my failure had been. I took a moment to just assess all these possessions in this car. My car was literally hugging the tarmac. It was full. The boot, the back seat, the front seat, full of stuff. And all that stuff was just yet another reminder. Now, I lived in Ngong at the time, and I'd spent the entire afternoon packing my entire life. My flight out to Entebbe was for 6 p.m. It was now 5 p.m. You can imagine how hot and frazzled I was. I remember driving down towards the Karen intersection, pedal to the metal, debating with myself, do I take Ngong Road? Do I bust a right to Langata Road? And as I got to the intersection, I bust a right into Langata Road. And as I was driving, approaching Galleria, I could see taillights. And I'm thinking, traffic. I'm not gonna make it. I have fled the house with all the things in my car all my life, and I'm not gonna make it. And then somehow, as I got closer, the traffic would clear. And that was the story all the way to the JKIA airport. As I reached a bottleneck, somehow, the traffic would clear. Wonderful. Now I had something new to think about, long-term parking. How many of us go to the airport thinking that we'll park our cars there and come back 4 days later? Do you know where long-term parking is? I had no clue. So I'm thinking, oh God, show me where long-term parking is. And somehow I started seeing the signs. Long-term parking, straight ahead. Long-term parking, straight ahead. And I followed that all the way to the parking lot, and I got the last parking spot. So I hurried out of the car, got my small bag, remember my small bag? Swung it across my shoulder, secured the car, and started legging it to terminal 1. Got through the security to the check-in desk, removed my brown envelope from my small bag. Alas, no tickets. Talk about Murphy's Law. I mean, thank God, though, it was digital age. I mean, we had e-tickets. So the lady at the counter told me, don't worry about it. Gave me my boarding pass, printed for me my return ticket, and just told me, get to the boarding gate right now. So I got to the boarding gate. It was time to board the craft. Boarded. I was at the very last row, the last seats. No luxury of reclining seats. But hey, I'm going to Entebbe to clear my mind. So as I sat there and the plane started to take off, I remember looking at this gentleman who was sitting right next to me. And I struck up a conversation with him. He seemed nice, warm, chatty. So I did a quick due diligence. KYC, you know what the bankers call know your customer. Quickly established, he's West African, all the way on the other side of the continent. He worked in Chad. He was only in Nairobi for his R&R travel, although, as he said, he preferred to take these breaks in Uganda. Perfect. There is no way I was ever going to see him again. So feeling like I had just lived through just a portion of an episode of 24, starring me, Jackie Bauer. I poured out my entire life to him, everything that I had gone through that day. It was a torrent of words, tears, snot. I was such a mess. But this guy was just so compassionate. He sat there. He listened to me so attentively. He didn't try to fix me. And as my story was coming to an end, we were touching down Entebbe Airport. And he stayed with me until my friend came to pick me up. I definitely felt very relieved, very light, and I think he felt very relieved to hand me over. Needless to say, we've remained friends over the last decade, and yes, I did get to meet him a couple of times. So much for KYC. So anyway, I came back from Uganda and moved into my parents' home. Literally straight from Uganda into my car, my entire life still intact, thank God, into my parents' home. There's nothing like family, a loving family. It really takes family and a close-knit community of friends to hold your brokenness together until your healing can start to congeal. At a time when I second-guessed every decision that I'd made, at a time when I thought the entire world would judge me so harshly for leaving my marriage, I found the greatest support in my family, my friends, and particularly mom and dad. So began my journey of healing and very intensive psychotherapy. And through that process, I did get a divorce. And some of the things I had to start rethinking and reconsidering was the role of failure in my life. Now, let's be honest. No one likes to talk about failure. It's seen as shameful, embarrassing, taboo. It's only cool to talk about it from a place of success and power. But I'm work in progress. So why had I come to think of myself and my life in such limiting ways, such unhelpful ways? There are very many things that I've had to work through over the years, but this one, though, really stands out. I thought that I can set the future. I thought that the future was largely controllable. Remember my list? Like life is this linear thing, just waiting for you to reach each carefully predetermined milestone and then check it off as done. You know the way we send emails at work, done. Well, life can be messy, I discovered. It's 152 shades of gray. Forget the 50, you know. There are so many things that are so out of our control, and sometimes God really does have a different agenda for you. But I was in the pits of misery, confusion, and self-doubt. That said. But as a Christian, what I knew then and I know now, is that I can never sink lower than Christ can descend. And I can never outrun his loving sovereignty. And in those times when you're in the pits, God does join us to give us more of himself, to give us guidance, faith, hope, and a light. So from the pits began my journey of small bags. And I realized as I was doing this talk that small bag is really symbolic of a lot of things in my life. I had to start shedding off. Shedding off clothes, shoes, documents, stuff, and yes, people. I found myself rewriting and recreating my own story. So I moved out of home about 2 years later and had literally nothing. Just a mattress, a carpet, a cushion, some household kitchen stuff, and my piano. And I remember I would sit there every evening, just me and my piano. I call her my baby. And I'll just pour my heart and soul into playing. And I'll just compose pieces as if I'm composing my life, a new song. And then one day I was surprised that I had quite a number of songs in my repertoire. And when I listened to them, I could just feel the evolution from the days of sadness, pensiveness, melancholic, into things that are a bit more upbeat. But I was a closet pianist. And so last year, and Valentine Jorge has just alluded to that, she asked me to play some of my compositions publicly. I'd never played publicly before. And I honored her call. And I think that was a great start for me. I feel I have grown out of the closet with my music, and I've grown into a small bag in my life. And then a well-meaning friend told me something about small bags and refills. And she said something to the effect of this. Sometimes when you have shared so much of yourself, you need to start a refill, a healthy refill. And sometimes when you're onto the refill, you just need enough light for the next step. Just enough light to illuminate the next step to keep you in the right direction. So I started flying aircrafts. But I couldn't tell you that I was 100% evidence verified why I was doing this. All I knew, it was a childhood dream. It's something that I'd always wanted to do. And now I found myself here with my piano, alone in my house, with a carpet, and the opportunity to fly. So I will be completing my private pilot license, hopefully by the end of this year. And I will be proceeding on. I'm pressing forward. What better way to augment your income with something that you're passionate about? And then this year, I retired. Yes, I retired at 40. Thank you. I left my plush corporate banking job several weeks shy of my 41st birthday. I've just turned 41 a few days ago. Was it scary? Hell yes. But it was also very exhilarating and thrilling. See, this is what I know. I'm not born for one corner of this world. The world is my native land, and I can occupy any space I want. And because I know that life is spurious, it's what we call madrodanios. With its twists and its turns and its surprises, I can press forward with courage and with also a lot of humility. So I know life has now granted me an opportunity to pursue the things that I love. And I'm taking it. So when I look back at the assumptions that lay beneath my limiting beliefs, I have found that they were mostly based on partial information. My story was incomplete. Nyambura's story was incomplete. And for me to label myself as a failure and fail to acknowledge the great successes that have punctuated my life to date is to tell an incomplete story, even to myself. In her TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, and I'll read because Valentine told me to make sure I get this right. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie says this: "It is impossible to engage properly with a place or a person without engaging with all of the stories of that place and that person. The consequence of the single story is this: it robs people of dignity. It makes our recognition of our equal humanity difficult. And it emphasizes how we are different rather than how we are similar." So this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to submit to you a more balanced view. Failure is life's greatest teacher. It's nature's chisel, chipping away at all those excesses, stripping down that ego, breaking you down, molding you and shaping you up again. It means that we are tough cookies, that we dared take a risk even in matters as supple as marriage, relationships, and children. Without failure, we would be less likely to reach for the moon and the stars. So I'm reaching for the skies. I do that every weekend in my itsy bitsy Cessna. My question to you is, what are you reaching for? Let's park my initial question of what you'll take with you. What are you reaching for? And will you reach for it even if you fear failing at it? More importantly, will you persist in the face of failure?
Thank you so much, Nyambura. Were you not finished?
I'm done.
Oh.